11. Now, negative equity, we've spoken about this many times in the programme, and there is an expert in the field who you may have heard referred to during a series of different advertising campaigns in different on different platforms, and it's Phil Davison who represents Negative Equity NI. Phil, good morning.
How's it going, Frank? You alright?
All is good. Phil, the first thing I think about whenever anyone's in negative equity is that they've, needless to say, got a loan on a property that's now worth less than the property is valued at. And if they decide to get involved with any company, whether it's your company or any other company, that's going to cost them even more money. So why should they take a step towards listening to someone who describes themselves as Negative Equity NI?
I suppose it's a good point. I suppose if you're looking at it from a client's point of view, if you've got somebody who's trapped or caught in a situation that there doesn't seem to be a clear way out of, we're there to help them pick that path. And I suppose it's like anything else. It's being able to offer people value for money. It's a good point that why would somebody who's already in a situation where they're having difficulty coping, why would they take on, I suppose, more debt in terms of fees to us? But what we do is act as a conduit between a distressed borrower and a financial institution to pick a path that can get them back to where they need to be. You know, it's really a case of helping people to deal with this historic property debt issue that is really left over from the boom years, and it's going to take an awful long time to right itself.
And how many customers do you reckon are out there who could avail of your service?
Thousands, to be honest. The typical client that we have, I mean, there's a obviously there's a perception out there of the property speculator, the guy who was buying buy-to-lets or was involved in land development. That's not our typical client, Frank. Our typical client is the just the honest, hard-working family who stretched for the house because house prices were going up, and they bought in 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 250 or 300,000 pound, which seemed sensible at the time, into the dream home, and not just the housing market, the whole economy is turned against them. People aren't earning what they are or what they were at the time. The financial vehicles that were available, a lot of people were getting involved in interest-only mortgages. How do they pay those off? And what has happened is we have a whole, literally thousands of people who are in a situation where low interest rates have kept them afloat. But what are they going to do now that interest rates start to rise? And what we do is, in a very conciliatory way, work with both the lender and the bank to find a situation that's palatable to both.
So you do the hard work for them. Obviously there's a cost for that, but longer term they may find themselves in a position where they benefit financially. If I've got a house that I paid 300,000 for that I want to sell, and it's now worth 100, let's say 200,000. I bought it for 300. It's now worth 200. I'm selling it. I still have the debt on the 300. Can I actually sell the house?
Yeah, you can. You can sell the house, and you may find that at the end of it, the obligation isn't 100,000. As the man says, you can't get feathers from a frog. And if you can demonstrate that, there's obviously an affordability question there. What can somebody afford to pay back? And banks aren't the bad guys here, as bad as it would be portrayed. They don't want to be putting people onto the street, and if there's a reasonable middle ground that can be found, in a lot of cases lenders are more than happy to look at that. And the thing with our services, Frank, I mean, yes, we charge a fee, but we don't charge an initial fee. Somebody can come and talk to us for nothing. If we don't think we can help somebody, we wouldn't take them on as a client, and our fees are tied into success. They're not tied into big upfront fees that you pay us for and then we don't produce something. I mean, the bulk of our fee is tied to us doing what we say we're going to do. So if we don't do that, we don't get paid. And anybody can come and talk to us. We're happy. We do quite a bit of pro bono work anyway. If somebody comes along and we think we can help them, it wouldn't be the first time that we've taken that case on and given somebody some good advice for nothing. So if there are people out there that are worried about this, they can come and talk to us for free. There's no obligation, and they'll leave more informed than they came.
Would they tend to go to you or a group like you after they've actually spoken to the lender directly themselves and they haven't got any change out of them?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, and it's not the lender's fault. You know, it's the nature of banks these days. You know, somebody gets put through to a call centre. The person in the call centre has a very specific remit. They don't really want to talk to the person. You know, if that was you or I, you know, you would try and go to somebody and say, listen, I'm going to be in trouble or I'm having difficulty. Unfortunately, because there's so much as the banks don't want to talk to you until you're in difficulty. So what's happening is people are treading water. They can't get ahead. You know, they maybe go to their lender. Their lender may not be as receptive as they could be. It's just simply because of who they're talking to, you know, within that structure. What you'll find is people then go into maybe advice centres. We would see a lot of people who come to us after they've been somewhere else, but this is what we do day and daily. I mean, we're FCA licensed, we're OFT licensed, you know, so we're heavily regulated. We've got a team of dedicated professionals, and this is what we do. So if you come here, you're going to get the best advice that's available. And you're going to get it initially. As I say, like that initial consultation is free, so there's no obligation. You can come along and have a chat, and you will leave more informed than you came.
Are people burying their head in the sand with regards to the possibility of the interest rates going up in the near future? They tend to stay where they are. You know, every time we hear about they're possibly going up this quarter, they stay where they are at 0.5%. But are people burying their head in the sand, considering they might be going up and significantly going up in the next 12 months or so?
Frank, I mean, our issue here is that we're part of the UK, you know, the part of the UK government. We've got a housing market in the south of England that is seriously overheating at the minute, and Northern Ireland will not be the main consideration of Westminster in terms of how to stop that housing market, you know. So the interest rates are going to go up. How much they go up, I don't know. And one of the things that is happening at the moment is people are seeing house prices start to creep back. So, you know, people are sort of thinking to themselves, can I wait this out, and you know, the interest rates will be back up, but the house prices will will sort of be okay. But you know, in all honesty, we're years away from seeing 2006, 2007 levels, and in some places we're not going to see it for a real long time. So, you know, I think people can bury their head in the sand to a certain extent, but then I suppose the information isn't out there. People don't really know who to go and talk to about it. There's not a lot of information. Banks don't make it freely available. We know because we're dealing with them, but you know, they're not really going to tell you how to get around these things. And if people have a bit of a knowledge of how commercial banks, you know, how commercial lending works, how banks make a decision on these things, they don't look at it like, you know, you or I would. You know, they're gonna make a decision based on getting the money back in and what is the best way to move forward, not necessarily what is the best way to get all the money back.
When you deal with people, do they sometimes have tears in their eyes, or are they generally looking at it as a longer term problem?
No, it's an emotive thing, Frank. I mean, we see people who are struggling. We see, you know, it wouldn't be uncommon for us to see fathers, you know, husbands coming in to talk to us about situations that their partners don't really know about. We see people who are, you know, ill basically because of it. You know, the worry, the stress of it, there's I suppose in a certain sense there's a certain amount of embarrassment around this, isn't there? You know, people go out to provide. They don't want to be looking for this sort of help to, especially with your home, because you know that's where you have your family. You know, so yeah, there's an emotive subject, but I mean we deal with it in as sensitive a way as we can, and there's no stigma with it as far as we're concerned. You know, we just look at it as a, you know, there's no blame. If you want to start pointing fingers, where do you point them? Do you point them at the government who deregulated the banks who probably lent too much, the people who borrowed too much? Where does that stop? You know, so everybody's in this, and it's just about finding as good as reasonable, as consensual a way out of it as possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting commentary, because there are people, as you say, in a very difficult situation financially because of the boom years of about almost a decade ago. Phil, you are one port of call. You've pointed it out very clearly to us this morning, and people have been asking. Negative equity NI. Thanks for your time this morning, Phil. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
That's Phil Davison from Negative Equity NI. Is that the position that you're in at this present moment? How difficult is it for you? You can let us know. Right, loads of texts coming through. I'm so sorry about the texts that I haven't seen to this morning. They've been coming at us hand over fist, and thank you very, very much for them. So many of you talking indeed about the tattooed ladies and all of that this morning. And I mentioned Ronnie Bone. I'm going to just play a little bit of this. This is a fantastic song. Gosh, this was used to advertise something. What was it used to advertise? Go on, be really clever.